attitude, but an attitude that we expect to find in Christian leadership, or we should find in Christian leadership. I think that's so important. And we all know that attitude is what? I don't care how you look at it from the world, but even the world will tell you attitude is everything. Right? And we see this all the time, don't we? You know where it shows the most is usually in athletic events, right? There's some great stories out there. There's the big dude that's a lineman, his coach tells him he's got to get big, so he goes home and he puts on 100 pounds, right? And coach said, man, I didn't say get fat, I said get big. So the guy spends, the whole next summer just pouring his heart out to get into shape. Turns out to be one of the best college football players ever. Why? Because his attitude was right. And we see that all the time with athletes, right? These guys have no talent, but they work hard, and through their efforts and their attitude, they become victorious. They become champions, and they really weren't the guy expected to win. They were the odds-out favorite, so to speak. So we see that. And attitude. Let me ask you this: if you work any kind of management, or you work in the career world, attitude is important, isn't it? Right? How many of you like working with Debbie Downer or Bobby Bad Attitude, right? I mean, it's like, oh, just shoot me now. They're here today. Oh, man, I got COVID. I got to stay away from you. I have COVID. So we all have those people in our life. We know who they are. And what should we be doing for them as Christians? Praying that God changes them because we can't. Amen, right? What if it's you? What if it's you? We're going to get to that. I want to share an illustration this morning that there's a lot of wisdom in. And it's about a working mom that is working on her master's, and she's studying positive psychology and how to develop that into children. Basically, she's studying thankfulness and gratitude and how that develops in children. So she comes up with this great plan for her 7-year-old. As he becomes, like all mothers, we children become experiments for them at school and for projects they work on. I know this from experience. My mom's was shock therapy. Just writing a paper on it, and I still have episodes once in a while. So this little fellow's name is Jonah. He's 7. So Mom starts this thing where she calls, honey, we're going to do this activity every night, and we're going to call it the 3 blessings. And before you go to bed, you're going to share with me 3 blessings that you had through the day. Well, first thing little Jonah does is say, Mama, can we change the name to something simple like 3 good things? So Mom agrees. So what I want to do is share a few of the excerpts from this conversation with Mom and little Jonah. So it's been going on for a while now. So Mom's really wanting to see if any of this is sinking in and what little Jonah's actually getting out of this activity they've been doing every night. So here's her first question. What do you think of our bedtime tradition of talking about 3 good things? And little Jonah's response is, I like it. It's like, good to share good stuff. Mom's next question. Why do you think it feels good to talk about good things? Jonah's response. Maybe because you might have something that wasn't fun, so if you talk about the good things, well, the bad things, you don't think about them anymore. So Mom's really nice in her outline, and she gives us what she calls the adult translation. So here's what she translates Jonah to say through that. Focus on the positive helps detract from the power of the negative. That's pretty solid. I'll agree with that. Mom's next question. How do you choose your good things, Jonah? The weird thing is, you may not have a good thing or had fun, so you can share something that you think someone else had fun with because you know it'd be good to have something good happen to someone you love too. Okay? Adult translation. Our happiness can be enhanced with the increased happiness of those around us. Men, focus men, I'm talking to you for a minute. Do you agree with that statement? Yeah. Who came up with the slogan, happy wife, happy life? Okay. Very honest, David. Very good. Because it sure wasn't a wife, right? If it was a wife, she said, hey, here's what you need to be telling your friends. Right? So, and that's true, right? Happiness can be infectious. It can rub off. It can make the environment at home a good place. Mom's next question. Is it always easy to think of 3 good things? Jonah sighs. You might get stressed because you may not be able to get one out. I can hear a 7-year-old say that. But if it's Saturday or Sunday, you might be able to ask your parents. And if they can't help you, maybe you could ask a friend. And if they couldn't come up with them, maybe you could all brainstorm together. Adult translation. Sometimes it's important to have people around you who remind us of the good things we have. Mom, do you think it would be good to teach other people how to do these 3 good things? Jonah, I think it would, but you shouldn't just come in and stuff. You'd have to let them pick whether they wanted something to do, that they may want to do other things or have other feelings. Adult translation. You can't force other people to be grateful for what they have, but we can offer them opportunities to share. Now, I want to talk a little bit, and we're going to see if we can benefit from some of little Jonah's wisdom. I think if we look at Scripture, maybe that's why there's this emphasis on gathering. I mean, you cannot pick up the New Testament and not find an event where Christians or believers are not gathering. And almost on all the Gospels, it tells us to be encouragers, to gather, to encourage. So there's a huge emphasis on gathering and encouraging. Can you encourage someone with a bad attitude? Well, you really wouldn't be encouraging them at that point, would you? So, what happens when we hang around people with a bad attitude? It rubs off, doesn't it? Did you know that attitudes are infectious, right? I touched on it, right? You hang around people with a bad attitude, and pretty soon you're going to have a bad attitude. Who's responsible for your attitude? You are. It's the one thing in life that you can control and change. So if you're hanging around people with a bad attitude, leave them. Well, listen, it's your wife, and then you need to help change it. And if she got a bad attitude, honestly, it's probably because of you. Okay, and you need to fix it. Because I've experienced this a lot in my house. I have a precious wife, but there are days that I knock on her last thread, and her attitude may change a little. So what's the first thing we can learn from Jonah? I think his statement is really good. It's good to share good stuff. Can we all agree with that? It's good to share good stuff. What is it when we share bad stuff? There's the word I was looking for, gossip. Did you hear? You know what Baptists do? It's like, hey, man, we need to put so-and-so on the prayer chain because... No, man, that's gossip. Good stuff. Psalms 92:1. It is good to give thanks to the Lord and sing praises to the Most High. And we do need to focus on the positive. And I think we get so tied up in the negative that we forget how good God has been to us. And we need to focus on the good. Philippians 4:8. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts. Sorry, I'm trying to fix something. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Do we do that? The question is, do we do that enough? And I agree that our happiness can be enhanced with the increased happiness of those around us. Right? None of us like tension in our home. And if we really back up and drill through it, one of you is the root cause to the tension. And I've learned in my house, it's just me. It's just me. And I hate to be that way, but it's the truth. If you have my personality, just accept it. It's you. You did it, so fix it. It's amazing how wonderful my home life can be if I'm actually paying attention. When I'm not paying attention, it can get not so good. But once again, that's me. I don't know how your relationships work. Romans 12:10 says, love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. Do we do that? Do we get so busy that we take each other for granted and we never stop and appreciate what others do for us? It just becomes expected. How do you lose that bad attitude? You keep people around you that believe in sharing the good, right? Positive thinking people that remind us of the good things that we have. Proverbs 12:25. Worry weighs a person down, and encouraging words cheer a person up. And I think we can all say that we've experienced this firsthand. You really just can't force someone to be grateful, can you? And the world is full of ungrateful people to the point that it irritates some of us to maybe even possibly have bad attitudes. Okay? Open a door for somebody, smile. Right in they go. No, thank you. No, nothing. What do you want to do? Let's be honest. Catch him. You know it was a deacon at a Baptist church that came up and said, don't let that door hit you on the way out. Because if I'm holding it for you, don't say thank you. It's gonna. We need to appreciate the small gestures. Hey, we're guilty of it too. We get so busy, we don't. Hey, you know what? You know how I'm getting older? There's always this young man. And when I say young, he's 25 to 30. We're all heading somewhere. We're all getting to the door by the same time. He stops and he opens the door for me. And it's like, am I at that age? And I just smile and say, thank you, son. I always say son so that I recognize that I am way older than him and he's at least old enough to be my son, you know? And it gives you hey, does that not encourage you, men? Oh, some of you are young enough you don't get the door open for you, right? But there's always that one old guy, right? You're coming along and there's that old guy. Oh, no, I got it. Just get in here. I'm going to die holding the door, man. Put down the phone. They're there. And we live expecting that. But we need to show appreciation. We need to. So busted. We need to live that way, right? You guys should be opening the door for old people like me. Because someday you're going to need something from an old person. I don't know what that is yet, but someday. Maybe you already got it, and that's why you should be opening the door for us, right? Okay, we were talking about old people. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Hebrews 10:24. Can't force people to share opportunities. But what's our job? Hebrews 10:24 tells us, let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and good works. Let us not neglect our meeting together as some people do, but encourage one another, especially now that the day of his return is drawing near. There's something that'll get you excited. How long are we going to live here? I don't know, but he's a-coming. What was Jonah's mom doing? She was instilling something into him. Do you realize she was building this recipe into him? of how to carry a positive attitude forward in life. Hey, parents, hello, it's never too late. This is a big deal. Think about if you could instill into your children to think about the positive things, what that would do for their overall mental health. Man, this is a huge deal. And she's figured it out in a study, right? So what's our takeaway from all this? We need to start thinking about the positive things. Maybe before we go to bed, adults, we need to think about the 3 best things that happened to us that day and thank God for them. And if you can't think of 3, ask your wife what the best 3 things that happened to her were. And she better have one says, you kissed me good morning, right? I mean, hey, that'd be a good one. What does Psalms 118 say? This is the Lord's day. This is the day the Lord has made. And we will rejoice and be glad in it. Good advice. So we've kind of figured out from this share good stuff that what is one of the real big requirements for a spiritual leader? Not just an attitude, but a good attitude, right? Has to have a positive attitude. Should be uplifting, should be encouraging, because that's what Scripture tells us to be. What's the second thing we should find in a Christian leader? He's to be compassionate. What does that mean? Compassionate. I mean, I hear people losing their mind sometimes in stores or on long sidelines. People say, well, he's just full of passion. No, that's anger. There's a difference. I know. It's my world we're talking about now. So, 1 Timothy, we just read 3:3, we see a leader is to be gentle. 2 Timothy 2:25 says, gently instruct those who oppose the truth. Perhaps God will change those people's hearts and they will learn the truth. Family, I believe real power and strength comes in a gentle spirit, a quiet walk. Isn't that what people are looking for? I mean, there's enough bombastic people in the world. They're looking for that really soft. They're looking for Elias, that quiet, gentle giant that the waters run deep. Yeah, I was looking for him. He's got a haircut, man. I know he's around here somewhere. That quiet spirit, right? Is it approachable? It's not going to reject you. You actually feel like they care about what you have to say. This is what the world is looking for in us. We can't be so busy that we come across cold and calloused and unconcerning. Jesus never was. The world's not looking for somebody to judge them. They're looking for somebody to encourage them. And we're really good at judging people. Have I got that wrong? We are really good at judging people, right? Okay, maybe it's just me. I'm really good at judging people. So, if we're to be compassionate, gentle people, how do we show this to the world? Well, I'm going to give you some advice. You learn by showing compassion to your family. Learn to love your family unconditionally, and let's see what God does with you then. He can teach you through your family how to love the hard to love. Hey, I'm not saying some of your family's hard to love. Okay, I may be saying that. Okay, we all have hard to love people, and some of them are right next door or living in the same room with us. But we are to love unconditionally. Isn't this what Christ did? So how do we do that? What is the first step to becoming a compassionate, approachable person? Oh, hey, I know this is going to sound amazing, but it hurts when we apply this to our own family, because the first thing you learn in management is lower your expectations of people. If you're angry, if you're frustrated in the world, lower your expectations of people. I know that sounds harsh, but guess what? Every one of us is flawed. Every one of us says ridiculous things and does stupid things every day. Lower your expectations of people. And you know what? In management, it's real easy to do when you walk out the door. It's really hard to do at home. And I figure that's a lot of where my personal anger comes from, is my expectations for my family are here, and they live like everybody else here. It's what happens in this huge gap. Anger, frustration, over and over again. Guess what? Just lower it. Your children are sinners. They are broken, and they've developed all of your bad habits. So get over it, love them from where they are, and then encourage them to be better. Okay? And your stress is going to go away. Have I completely succeeded at this? No, I have not. Am I trying? Yes, I am. And in all transparency, I fail every day. But I'm trying to do better. It's all about showing grace. And what's amazing is, how did Jesus do so good at this? He loved people and accepted everybody right where they were. Never a short, curt word from his mouth. Always approachable, always available. Well, he had no expectations for you. He didn't expect anything from you because he already knows you better than you ever will. So he already knew you so well that he already knew what you were capable of and what you were capable of failing at. And he's okay with it. He still loves us right there. We just need to claim that. We're flawed, we're broken, and we're to love like Christ loved. That means I love you unconditionally with all your brokenness, all your bad attitude, all your bad temper, all your bad habits, your snoring, you're turning the light on at night. She's not in here, right? Okay, good. We got to love them right where they are. And when we become so, here's the catch. As a pastor, here's the rub. Man, we're supposed to do that inside our own home. My wife should be telling you what a great man I am, how much that I love her, how much I do for her, how much of a champion I am for her. She's not, because I ain't. Right? I'm working on it. And I know there's days that I just frustrate her. It's what we got to work on, men, because you're the ones that are accountable. We bring harmony in the home. It's important. Here's what I will promise you. The world's going to reject you and they're going to hurt you. But Jesus never will. Jesus accepts you right where you are. How cool is that? The creator of this universe has got his light on for you all the time. Just like Motel 6. Light's always on. He's always ready to talk. Whenever you are, no matter how mad, frustrated, hurt you are, he's ready to listen. That is cool. Point 3. Are you ready for this one? Christian leaders are to be resolute. There's a big word. Resolute. Why would I pick that word? Because I think we need to understand when we read the word courage in the Bible what the Greeks were talking about. Okay? They weren't talking about rushing a stronghold and battling 1,000 men all by yourself. I chose it because of the definition. I think it fits best. To be firmly resolved or determined, to be set in purpose or opinion. And we can see that in Jesus especially every time the topic of going to Jerusalem comes up. He is set, he is determined, he is going to Jerusalem. And we all know he's going to die, and so did the disciples. They finally figured it out, and they kept saying, Jesus, you can't go. You can't go. Let's listen to that conversation. But Peter took him outside and began to reprimand him for saying such things. Heaven forbid, Lord, he said, this will never happen to you. Jesus returned to Peter and said, get away from me, Satan. You are a dangerous trap to me. You are seeing things merely from a human point of view, not from God's. That sure sounds like a resolute man to me. a man that was willing to be poured out as a drink offering to bring glory to his Father. So, what are we looking for in Christian leadership? Commitment, determination, a call upon their life. Family, I think here's what happens in churches. We look for a talented speaker. We look for a talented leader. We don't look for a man with the call of God on him. We don't look for that man that is so called that he can't think of anything else. That he is, every time a thought comes in his mind to move away from the ministry, it just destroys him because God's got such a grip on him. And they're out there. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of men with that call that are shoveling ditches, sweeping streets, driving buses, trucks, building houses, working on farms, but they haven't surrendered to it. And there's a whole group of men out there that are great auditors that are getting paid a lot of money to teach you and preach to you, but there's no call on their life. Your responsibility is to make sure you're being led by men that have that kind of call, that are resolute in their faith, that are determined. They can't be swayed. You know, and there's this leadership, there's this glorious thing in leadership that everybody looks at leadership and is like, wow, man, if I was a pastor, if I was a plant manager. But in ministry, leadership is not glorious. There's this illusion if you're looking from the outside in that it is, but that's not God's gift to leadership. That's not what God expects from leadership. We talked about this last week. Who's the bondservant? Right? Your leader, your servants, your elders, they're to be bondservants. They're to be sold out to Christ. And so in love with him that that love overflows from them into you. So in love with Christ that they're willing to serve you before their own needs. When that happens, you have a true leader. And until that does happen, you don't. Families, it's the same thing in your house. Men, you say you're the leader of your home, but until you love your wife to where everything that she needs is done before a single need that you have is done, you don't love your wife like Christ wants you to love your wife. You know, women are never told to love their husbands. Ever. Ever. That's kind of harsh, isn't it? You know what you're told? To respect us. But men, you are told to love your wife as Christ loved the church. Ow. Yeah, that's ow. I'm tired. I'm hot. I've been roofing all day. My wife is not lazy. She's been working, but I come into the kitchen and there's a kitchen full of dishes. Do I just go sit in front of the TV and start watching my favorite hot rod show? Who am I loving if I do that? Me. But if I roll up my sleeves and I do all the dishes, clean them up, don't even ask, just do it, get her kitchen cleaned up. And when she comes in, the kitchen's all cleaned up. She's like, what? Right? Did I just die to self there for a little bit? See, that's a real example, guys. Pick up a towel, dry a dish. Hey, you get home from work, your wife's been chasing babies all day, your living room looks like a tornado hit it. Am I supposed to blow my mind? No, just put your lunchbox down, walk over, start picking stuff up, clean stuff up, tell your wife you love her, then go shower. You have just been Christ to your wife. Little things, mechanical things we can do that we don't want to do because we can't die to self that much. We can't let the pride go. And that's exactly where it starts, fellas. It starts in the home. If we want to have champions, we build them at home. Deuteronomy 31:6. So be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid. Do not panic before them, for the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. Verse 8, don't be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. Joshua 1:9. This is my command. Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Each one of those verses is just a little bit different, isn't it? One's talking about fear. One's talking about discouragement. One's telling you to stand your ground when you're afraid of people. Not panicked over a lion getting ready to eat you. Run. But some hot housewife coming to you with an issue, don't panic. Stand your ground and watch me be God. Okay? That's what he's talking about. He's talking to leaders here. You feel the call that you're supposed to stand up and say something, but you're panicked, you're scared. Don't be. God's with you. Catch this. He goes ahead of you. We talk about this time. We hear he goes ahead of you. He goes with you. And then he's everywhere you go. So can you lose Jesus? No. I don't care if it's totally dark or how fast you can drive or run, you can't lose him. Because he's ahead of you, he's behind you, and he's with you. There's no more beautiful place to be. Fear comes from having the wrong perspective. I want you to think about a young pastor filling a pulpit. Where's his fear coming from? He has a family. He's trying to take care of his family. Why would he have fear? Because he's relying on men to take care of his family, right? It's easy to jump into that perspective as a young pastor. Hey, you guys called me. You're responsible for my care, my financial needs. So sometimes you're scared to say what needs to be said because you're worried about what's going to happen. Well, forget that. That's fear that comes from the wrong perspective. Our security comes from God, not men. Leaders must be resolute, and that comes from trusting in God and confidence that comes from knowing you're on the winning team. I think we forget that we're part of God's plan. He created it all, and he can take it all away, and I'm on his side. What could I possibly have to fear? Christ is our security, not a country, not a government, not an organization. Christ is your security, not a country, not a government, not an organization. Last point. Christian leadership must be self-controlled. Oh boy. Save the best for last. All we've looked at verses for the last few weeks is kind of like you went to grandma's house. Don't touch that. Don't play with that. Don't go in that room. Don't ask your grandpa. Don't bug your grandpa. Don't play with your grandpa's stuff. How many of you had a grandma like that? That's all we've been talking about is the knots, isn't it? He must not be a heavy drinker. He must not be violent. He must not be quarrelsome, and he must not love money. He must not be arrogant. He must not be quick-tempered. He must not be dishonest with money. Ephesians 5:18. Don't be drunk with wine because it will ruin your life. Instead, be filled with the Holy Spirit. What can I do? As we read through this, what am I supposed to do? Well, it seems all these knots always start with the same phrase. He must exercise self-control. And there's the rub. I'm to what? I'm to exercise self-control. What does that mean? Well, that means you are physically in control of your body and your mind. On Sundays, part-time? Most of the time? All the time. 24/7. We are to be in control and not impaired by anything that could change our thinking, that could impair our judgment. And here's that hiding monster, and that includes anger. Christian leaders are not to be controlled by anger either. And we can see a picture of this when Paul encourages the Ephesian church not to sin while they're angry. Ephesians 4:26. And don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. Is it fair to say that we all get angry? I mean, I like to say, and I'm one of these people, I blame it on people. People make me angry, but if we're honest, if I'm living on a deserted island, I'm probably still going to get angry. I'm going to get angry with myself, right? I'm going to get frustrated about something I'm trying to do. So we just can't blame it on people. What's the best way to deal with anger? To give it away. Give it to God every day. My prayer starts, Lord, my feet are hitting the floor. Don't let me be angry about it. Some of you think that's a joke. That's my prayer. Keep me happy. Don't let me get frustrated. Lower my expectations of people around me. Raise my expectations of myself. Self-control requires self-discipline. And that's not easy. 1 Timothy 4:7 says, don't waste time arguing over godless ideas or old wives' tales. Instead, train yourself to be godly. If we're honest, most of us in this room have spent the greater part of our lives being trained. We are not... my mind just shut down there. Somebody give me an electric start. Right? We are all experienced to training, right? We've all had training most of our lives. Well, why would we be uncomfortable? Why would that be foreign to us? I mean, you go to school. Isaac, what are you learning in school? Isaac's back here. Isaac, are you learning anything? You're on my mind this morning, man. School is about training. Hello, we get educated. Educated is another word for training. We get trained in elementary school and high school, and then guess what? We go off to college and we get more training. We pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get trained for a career outside of college, and when we get that job, we go into training to learn how to do the job we learned in college. Yep, right? Yep. 60 grand to spend another 2 years learning how to do it how my employer wants to do it. Oh, I don't care what you learned in school. Then why wouldn't you hire me without a degree? Right on, right? Yeah, I walked that road a bunch. So we're training. We understand it. You like sports? Joey, you like sports? Yeah, I hope so. You play a lot of them. Do you physically train for sports? Yeah, right? You weight room, running, jogging. Right? You train your mind because we have to learn the plays. I think you train harder for sports than you do for your job, right? We physically work out, right? We train. If we're getting to look like me, we'll, push a little iron, work out to get fit, to go on a trip, to get ready for an event. We train our bodies and our minds. Why is it that we struggle in spiritual training? Why is that so hard? Well, a couple of weeks back, we talked about this, didn't we? How do we train, right? We set up a schedule. We put it on the calendar. You block out so many days or so many hours a day, so many hours a week to do whatever it is you're going to do, and then you do it, and you're in the middle of it. Well, how come that never works spiritually? We learned this a couple weeks ago. It's because it's a heart issue, right? We don't love Jesus enough. We don't love Jesus enough to spend time with him, to put him on the schedule, to dedicate time to train. And there's a circle here, isn't there? If we can do that, if we would actually start training and spending time with Jesus and learning more about Jesus, our love would grow for Jesus. And the more our love would grow for Jesus, the more time we'd want to spend with Jesus, meaning the more we would grow in Jesus. Then it would become easy. But we haven't got to that step, so we just never get there. 1 Timothy 4:8. Physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in his life, in this life and the life to come. And I think that's how we need to look at this, right? I mean, physical training is not a bad thing. It increases the quality of our life here on earth. But spiritual training goes one step further, doesn't it? Not only does it improve the quality of life here, it improves your quality of life for eternity. Forever. Well, then all of a sudden there are some stakes that become very high when it comes to spiritual training, aren't there? The question is, do you have good spiritual training? Can you afford not to have good spiritual training? So what's the root of the question? Are you in good spiritual shape? And you know, your family depends on your spiritual shape. I don't know that we think about that. Our family counts on our spiritual, physical condition. It can have eternal ramifications on them. And we just seem to ignore it. Oh, if we could just grasp the fact that one day we're all going to stand in front of God and we're going to try to explain away our complacency and our mediocrity. And guess what? For a whole lot of folks, it's not going to end well. Let's pray. Father, we are so thankful for your word. Father, and this morning I'm thankful for the men that you've put into my life that have